Thanks for joining us today on Live with Lisa. Today we're talking live with Josh Kraft, Nicholas, President and CEO of the Boys and Girls Club of Boston. If you think back to when you were a kid, it may have been tough to remember to wear your helmet or be home in time for dinner. I know it was for me. But today, children need to wear a mask and social distance. I didn't even know that kids could do that. Their summer camps and programs are canceled. But what about the families who rely on organizations like the Boys and Girls Club? How do their staff and mentors tackle the challenges brought by COVID-19 and still meet the needs of all of our children? The great part about joining us live, you can always feel free to ask questions and contribute to the conversation today. And please remember, interviews like this are important for everyone to see. They educate us on the world around us. They allow us to think more thoughtfully about the decisions we're making day to day. I know as I'm watching the news, sometimes it's hard to relate to everything else that's going on. But the more we can educate ourselves on what other people are experiencing, the better it is for everyone. So you might even find yourself asking, maybe there's something more I can do. So remember to subscribe. You'll get an alert when new guests are scheduled, and you can set the reminder so you don't miss the guests you want to see. And if today's video with Josh Kraft is something that inspires you, like the video so it reaches more people. And of course, share with friends and colleagues who are interested in learning more about today's topic. So Josh, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, Lisa. I appreciate it big time.
So, with everything going on in the news, you refer to the Boys and Girls Club as a social justice organization. And that's such an important message to our community right now. Can you tell us what that means and how the Boys and Girls Club exists?
Right. Thanks, Lisa. So what it means to me is that we're a social justice organization because our goal, it's been Boys and Girls Clubs of Boston's goal for close to 130 years, is that we level the playing field, providing access to opportunity to any and all kids. You know, creativity, intelligence, and sweat equity isn't limited by zip codes, just opportunity is.
Right.
And that's what we do. Every single kid who walks in our door, no matter what their skin color, their ethnicity, their physical or mental capacities are, their family of origin, is afforded the same access to opportunity as the kid who walked in a second before them. And that's what's sustained community and built community. And you know, everyone's in this day and age, social justice this, social justice that, but that's what we do. We equal the playing field and add access to opportunity for every single kid and family that walks in our door.
So for people who may not be as familiar with Boys and Girls Club, could you share with us some of the programs that you have and how you serve these children?
Yeah, thanks. It's from the most basic, like homework help, after school every day, college tours, visits, college preparation, workforce development, which is a new program we started. And thanks to a great partnership with the Fish Family Foundation, we have, for the last 12 years, we've sent kids to Japan. For the last, I think it's 10 years, India. In the last 3 years to Native American reservations, exposing kids to, you know, the world outside. We all know the powerful impact that travel makes. And these kids have to spend a year learning about each country or place they're visiting in the case of the Native American reservations. And you know, those are just a few. I could go on and on from, you know,
swim
yoga
programs.
Excuse me. Yeah. Teaching kids how to swim. That's a big part of what we do. Every kid who comes through our program, we want them to leave with knowing how to swim. Like I said, workforce development, job placement, exposure, taking kids to sporting events for the first time, taking kids, you know, over the Broadway Bridge in Southie for many of them the first time, or over the Mystic Bridge from Chelsea for the first time. So it's really just these opportunities. And again, I could sit here for a long time and rattle them off, but it's just really, but the greatest opportunity we offer for so many kids is that connection with a caring, compassionate adult. So every kid that walks in the door makes that connection, and he or she feels safe, comfortable to take risks, no matter what it is, whether it's one of these trips I talked about, or whether it's trying a new class in school that the staff has encouraged them to do.
Or jump in the pool. So many kids are afraid to swim.
Yeah, there you go.
So this year you've got a big change. Your staff has been tremendous and still trying to provide outreach, but how are you adjusting with this spring and now going into summer?
Yeah, so March 13th, myself and the leadership team I get to work with every day at the clubs, we made the decision to close down actually March 12th, which was a Thursday, we decided to close. And our buildings have been empty since that day, but they've never been more full of life, as our staff have been off the charts, the staff I get to work with every day, creating virtual programs, the Club at Home posts, which is on Facebook and Instagram, over 400 posts from Cooking with Mercedes from our Yaki Club in Roxbury to Arts with Yuri from the Jordan Club in Chelsea, to everything, and making beats with Anders from the Charleston Club, and everything in between. And we've had well over between 38,000 and 40,000 virtual views of those. In addition, we're doing Zoom programming, serving about 850 to 900 kids every week through Zoom programs. Preteen hangout. Our Native America trip is obviously not going in August, but that group continues to meet to learn about Native American culture. And in parallel track, we've handed out over 1,100 gift cards for CVS, Market Basket, and Stop and Shop, 3,000 hygiene kits, over 2,000 puzzles, games, and toys, and Lego projects.
Have you found that your level of sponsorship and people contributing has dipped then with this? It sounds like you've been able to create some really great partnerships even during COVID to help maintain your programs.
Yeah, knowing that there'd be about an 18 to 20% drop in the year end with our revenue, we couple things. We have had folks step up and say, we want to do something directly to support your COVID efforts. So that's where a lot of these gift cards and puzzles and games have come into play. In addition, we had some great, we made a commitment to our staff that we would do our best to keep everyone employed through June 30th, which is the end of our fiscal year. And some of our great closest friends and families put up a 2.5. So we figured we had to raise $5 million from mid-March till tomorrow to make that happen. So we had a bunch of our people close to us pledged $2.5 million, led by $1 million gift from Phil and Liz Gross. And we've matched that 2.5. We're over the $5 million mark. So we've been able to keep everyone employed and with benefits. And they've been working virtually, which has been unbelievable. They've just been unbelievable, the staff I get to work with every day.
Well, it's that dedication too to wanting to really help all these kids. And how are these kids adapting? Are they, obviously they enjoy it, but are they finding that they're maybe learning something new, or how are you finding that kids are adapting and changing and learning during this?
Well, I know it's been a different world, and we are getting the virtual video views and the Zoom call. But, I know a lot of us have been a little disheartened. There's been a 60% decrease in mandated child abuse reporting since coronavirus, because, Boys and Girls Club workers, school nurses, youth sports coaches, YMCA aren't the people that file a lot of these aren't around kids.
Right.
And that, coupled with a 40% increase in domestic violence calls, really concerns us about kids that might even be using the virtual on their phone or whatever. So I suffice to say we're pretty concerned. I am personally.
Right.
About a lot of kids and families.
That's an interesting statistic. I just want to clarify for anybody who's watching today or has questions, that because there's a decrease in reports of child abuse, it's actually because they're not around people. It's not because it's better during COVID. I heard some people reporting that maybe things were better during COVID. You're saying it's the opposite, that they're just not being reported.
Right. It's not being reported.
Right. That's really
maybe, but I have to guess that even before that statistic came out, our staff, we have licensed social workers at our 5 large clubs, Then we run a program with the Boston Police called Youth Connect.
Mm-hmm.
We have clinical social workers in a number of police stations to work with kids and their families that get brought in. And I'd say kids like 16 to 22, 24. And that includes, we work in neighborhood stations as well as the gang unit, school unit, and domestic violence unit.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of those social workers have expressed concern about kids being locked down.
Mm-hmm.
And,
yeah, and their ability to connect with other people and talk about things.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm really glad you brought up Youth Connect, because I think this is such an important program that you have. It's in collaboration with the Boston Police. Is that right?
Yes.
And of course, you know, there's a lot going on with the police, potentially restructuring how the police interact with people. How do you see that affecting your program with the Boys and Girls Club? Or do you want to speak to how Youth Connect has been such an important program and successful for you?
Yeah, it's the first answer is, yeah, it's been such a great program. It's 24 years old. And I know Willie Gross is the Boston Police Commissioner now. Before him was Commissioner Evans. He always used to say that when the program started, he was a captain or lieutenant in Austin Brighton. And he said, oh, this program will never last. These social workers, and as commissioner at our annual Youth Connect breakfast, he'd always say, I don't know what we do without these guys, without this program. So right. You can see the power and the impact, and they've kept up. They're dealing with 200 clients every week virtually and on Zoom call. I don't know how they do it, but so they've stayed on top.
Josh, help me understand how that collaboration works.
So if I'm Lisa, you're the club social worker, and it's a little different now because of Corona, but you'd be stationed, let's say you're stationed in the domestic violence unit, and then I'm brought in and I'm in that age group range I mentioned. The officer will say, well, you know, this is Lisa from Youth Connect. She's a social worker. You and your family or whoever else can work with her confidentially. She does not work for the police. She works with us on anything and everything going on during your, I don't want to say adjudication pro, whatever it is.
Sure.
And that's how they work a lot, the social workers, with the person as well as their family members and so on. And they just become a support to them.
Versus something that they're afraid of, right? Maybe a potential consequence they have.
I guess when you're brought into a police, it's probably pretty intimidating and scary. So.
Right. Do you have any success stories of like something in particular that you could share where that program has been so important or influential in someone's life?
One of our great staff at the Hockey Club in Roxbury, Mike Day, I believe he came out of that program. So
yeah. Well, that's
a few others. A kid, I don't know if people know inner city weightlifting. A few of those kids who are now personal trainers that go into businesses were Youth Connect kids.
So again, taking some other maybe bad habits, but turning that.
Yeah, working with social workers who are relentless and staying connected, you know. It's all about human connection.
Sure. And how many children do you serve in Boston?
Roughly 14,000. We'll see through a year, but then 8,000 are consistent members that come once a week.
Right.
At least, not once a week, at least once a week.
Right. And then the cost of the program is something that this is what was so stunning to me. So the cost of the program runs about $1,400 a person to run. Yeah. But then how much do you charge the families for kids?
Oh, it's $25 a kid for the year, for September to June. And if there's a family with 4 or 5 kids, we might make it less than $125. So that's the fee for 6 to 12-year-olds. Teenagers pay $5 to join.
For the year?
Yeah, for the year. Then July and August, obviously this July and August are different. We can get to that. The summertime's a little different because our numbers and there's some, what's the word I'm looking for? You know, we have to meet certain guidelines for a summer camp.
Sure. And that
regulations and so on. So we charge more because we have to hire a few more people in the summer.
So it makes sense that the cost is around, like I think someone had told me, around $1,400 a person. You're charging $25. That's where that difference is so important in all of your fundraising, and that includes their activities and their swim program and Youth Connect, like anything like that.
85% of things. There's a few things like bring $5 to go to this event, but most things are free of charge. Yeah, there are a few things where they got to bring some money.
That's unbelievable for so many kids to be able to do things like that. So now this summer, you said things are a little bit different. So are you opening the club back up this summer?
We are July 20th, Monday, July 20th. We have some clubs in schools. They won't be opening, but our 8 other clubs will be opening. Instead of, in the summer, we'd see about 275 kids a day. This year, we're probably going to go for 80 a day. Obviously, there'll be all different restrictions, arrows. We cook meals, but now everything will be prepackaged meals. All staff and kids will have masks and so on.
Right. So is there a wait list to get in this summer then? Yeah,
we're going to leave that up to our operations team. But 2 things we thought of, one of the great things, a lot of our staff, they're so tied into the communities. They know the families that, we were talking about those statistics earlier. They'll know the families, and we should probably get this kid in the building. And they'll know the families where, someone needs to go back to work, 9 to full time, and they'll try to give them precedence for those 80 slots.
Right. And then as we go forward, one of the things I know I heard in the news this morning is that people are worried about COVID getting worse before it gets better again. And we're not just opening back up and life is normal, that maybe some people thought it was, over the extended period of time. So let's say to next year, how does the Boys and Girls Club adapt then? How do we continue to serve these kids?
Well, we want to continue to get them in the building, make that human connection with them. I think this summer will be a huge, I don't want to say experiment or challenge, but it might be a little bit of both. But we're going to take what we learned from the summer and apply it to our bread and butter after school programming. Again, normally our summer programming would start this, July 6th, but we're going to start July 20th. After school, we usually start a few days after Labor Day. This year, it'll be late September as we kind of learn from what we did in the summer, ramp up. Can we take a few more kids, maybe go to 100 kids? Who knows? Right. So it's all a learning process, but it's our intention to get the doors open safely. If we can't do it safely for the kids we serve or the staff, we won't do it.
How many Boys and Girls Clubs are there total? Like, how many children in the world are you serving that maybe you can be learning?
I think roughly, within America and some international places, 4,500 to 5,000 club, separate 501c3s.
Yeah. And are you learning from one another, like the best practices of what's working?
Yeah. I think we've shared. I think for our reopening, we got some information from clubs in Dallas, the county that serves Dallas-Fort Worth, who I know now, they're probably really hurt. They were like we were a few months ago. But,
yeah, they're calling you to figure out what to do.
Right. But they had some really great protocol that our operations staff learned from as well.
So as we go into school, then I would think that your need would be even greater if the schools aren't going to be full-time. Will kids be able to come or work through the programs? Maybe these are some questions you haven't figured out yet.
Yeah, well, Lisa, that's what we're hoping for. That's our goal, to do it the best we can to reach and connect with these kids, but we'll learn. I think Dr. Fauci always says the virus will tell us. Isn't that what he always says? So unfortunately, unless there's some miraculous end or vaccine, but I don't see that happening.
Sure. Well, I love that when we spoke last week and we were talking about, what was happening right now with Boys and Girls Clubs, how, again, that related to what's going on in our current environment and some unrest that, how do you help solve for that? And again, when you referred to yourself as a social justice organization, that really that really hit me of, again, the equality that you're bringing for so many children and have been for so long. When people want to get involved now, again, that's even different. People can't just volunteer and show up like they may have been able to in the past. How are people helping support you now?
Well, we virtually, we're doing we've got some virtual mentors for our Ready to Work program. We had this huge, that's another great opportunity I should have mentioned at the beginning. We have this great part of our workforce development. We have this fellows program where we place 40 to 45 kids in really great summer internships, whether it's private equity firms, hospitals, high-end retail stores, whatever fits their police stations, whatever fits their interest. So this summer, we're going to do it all virtually. Mm-hmm. Be mentoring and so on. So there'll be virtual mentors for a lot of these kids and so on. Maybe even when the fall starts, if we can't get volunteers in, maybe it's virtual tutoring. We have a big need for tutoring, homework out, work on FAFSA forms and so on. So,
I know as a parent that all of those forms and all of that is tough. And again, I can't imagine if I didn't have some of the resources that I have and the network that I have to help me through and to make those contacts, or, my kids are in college, to be able to pick up the phone and ask someone to help them out to make that connection for an internship or a job, for them to be able to come to you and your team. What an amazing resource, and so important for Boston and for Greater Boston to continue to support you. One of the things, as we have just a few more minutes in case anybody has any other comments. I love that one of the people who's commented grew up in the Chelsea Club and has so many great memories, and continues to support now that they're in their full-time job and working. But my mom is actually moving up from Charlotte right now. Oh, nice. And she happens to be a big football fan. And so she was very excited about the new Cam Newton news. And one of the things that she brought up to me was how philanthropic he was and how involved he was in the Charlotte area. And I'm just wondering, is this something that you see with Cam joining the Patriots now? Is this something
I think
might be able to help the Boys and Girls Club,
or just help the community? That's at least we're so lucky with the players that come in here, whether it's the McCourtys, Matt Slater, Dave Andrews. They're all and a lot of guys that have left, they're so committed to community. Mm-hmm. And they're out there doing it every day, really doing it. And I think Cam Newton will fit into that culture pretty seamlessly from what you just said and from what little I know about him. So we're excited. It's just another great resource to make our community stronger.
Right. In Cam we trust, somebody just posted in the chat.
I like that.
Well, I'm looking forward to the season too. So
we could use that.
We talked about this on another show where we had sports figures on, talking about how, we all turn to sports as an outlet, right? It's something to cheer for. It's our local heroes. And to not have sports right now is really a void in all of our lives. And, it's also, again, an outlet for kids to aspire to something, to, feel a part of goals or to be part of their own sports teams. And so, I'm sure that you're experiencing that on all levels, from the professional side all the way through the children you serve and who can't be playing on their own sports teams right now. Do you have a thought on how that all ties together as we start to end up today?
Yeah, I think, sports, it's really a community builder in this time where there's so much disunification. Whenever there's a parade, and we've been so spoiled in Boston, a sports parade, well, I use two examples. In the best of times, you see everybody come together.
Right.
Everybody celebrating those parade routes.
Sure.
You look, there's folks of color. I'm sure there's people with different sexual orientations, whatever. It's unifying. Just like when there's videos on whatever station you watch, CNN or Fox or MSNBC, whatever. When there's videos from natural disasters, same thing. You see all different people coming together to support people. Mm-hmm. So as awful as things are, and I'm not going to lie, it's a real challenging time for America. When things are really, really bad, people come together. just like they do when things are really good and celebratory. So I'll leave it at that, and hopefully we can create more of a sense of community.
Mhm.
I always like to talk about our Charleston Club, and I can end with this. One of the most powerful things there is, I know, sure folks on the watching this know, Charlestown has some very beautiful old buildings that have turned into nice condos, but it also has the largest public housing development in New England, the Bunker Hill Housing Development. And during, any day you go up to the Charlestown Club, but I'll just use the example of holiday time. There's kids from that public housing development next to kids whose family owns a $3-4 million condominium that they paid in cash, working together, decorating cookies, celebrating whatever they're celebrating, but just being together and to be together in the community. And that's so powerful, especially it's a great message in this day and age. And hopefully we're instilling that, and not just in Boys and Girls Clubs of Boston, but all clubs across the country. That's
really great. Well, thank you for your dedication to everything that you're doing and all of the people that you've been able to bring to be a part of this and to help support it. If somebody's interested in learning more, they can go to your website. Is that right? And if they want to be more
involved, right, and get into the clubs and all that. Yeah, there's a lot of great opportunities.
That's great. Well, Josh, of course, if there's anything I can ever do, just let me know. And I'm sure we'll be back in touch. Thank you so much for joining me today.
And thanks for everyone that's tuned in today. And hopefully the rain will stop soon.
I know, huh? Then we can all try and at least get outside. And for anybody who enjoyed today's interview, please be sure to like it. Please be sure to share it. I think this is something that's so important for so many people to know more about. And we'll see you again tomorrow.
Thanks. Thank you, Lisa. Bye-bye.
Bye.